Welcome back, horror enthusiasts. Today, we have a spine-chilling treat for you. Here are 5 of the creepiest short ghost stories that will send shivers down your spine. So, turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare to enter a world where fear reigns supreme.
Mommy told me never to go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It was a rule I had always followed, but curiosity got the better of me this time. It sounded like a puppy whimpering, a sound so pitiful and heart-wrenching that I couldn't ignore it. I slowly crept down the creaky wooden steps, each one groaning under my weight. The sound echoed in the silence, making my heart race even faster. It was dark and damp, the air thick with the smell of mildew and something else unsettling. The basement felt like a different world, one that was forgotten and left to decay. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the humidity. The chill seemed to seep into my bones, making me shiver uncontrollably. The whimpering was louder now, and I pressed on. Each step felt heavier, as if the air itself was trying to hold me back. Through the maze of old furniture and stacked boxes, I saw it. The basement was a labyrinth of forgotten memories, each item a relic of the past. A small, huddled shape in the far corner. It was barely visible in the dim light, a shadow among shadows. A tiny whimper escaped its trembling form as I approached. The sound was so soft, yet it pierced through the silence like a knife. I reached out, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination to help the poor thing. My hand shook as it extended towards the shadowy figure. "It's okay, little guy," I whispered, my voice trembling. I wanted to comfort it, to let it know that it wasn't alone. As I got closer, the whimpering stopped. The sudden silence was deafening, making my heart skip a beat. The shape unfurled, slowly rising. It wasn't a puppy, it was a child. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. A young boy no older than 6, with matted hair, wearing clothes that were nothing more than torn rags. He looked like he had been down here for a very long time. His skin was deathly pale, almost translucent. It was as if he had never seen the light of day. His eyes, wide and hollow, stared right through me. They were filled with a sadness and emptiness that I couldn't comprehend. I stumbled back, my heart threatening to leap out of my chest. Fear gripped me, making it hard to breathe. He opened his mouth, and a raspy voice, ancient and chilling, echoed through the basement. "Get out!" The word sent a shiver down my spine. I scrambled back up the stairs, the image of the ghostly boy seared into my memory. I didn't stop until I was back in the safety of the light. To this day I can still hear his voice, a chilling whisper in the back of my mind. The memory of that night haunts me, a constant reminder of the unknown lurking in the dark.
When my daughter was 2, I found her twirling paper towel tubes tied with twine in the air, making whooshing sounds. She was mimicking her dad practicing with his nunchucks in the living room. "Daddy taught me!" she exclaimed proudly, her big brown eyes shining with excitement.
I smiled, amused. My husband had been trying to teach her basic coordination by showing her some moves, but she was too young to even hold the real nunchucks. That night, as I was tucking her into bed, she suddenly sat up, her eyes wide with a strange intensity. "Daddy came to see me," she whispered. I chuckled, thinking she was sleepy and imagining things. "Daddy's downstairs, sweetheart. You were just playing with him."
She shook her head, her expression serious. "No, Mummy, it was Daddy, but not really. He was showing me how to use the sticks again."
I brushed it off as a vivid dream and kissed her goodnight. The next morning, my husband came downstairs, his face pale and drawn. "You won't believe what I just saw," he said, his voice shaking. He described how he woke up to see our daughter fast asleep, but her tiny hands were moving in the air, perfectly mimicking the nunchuck movements he had shown her the day before. We exchanged a worried look. Was it possible that his late father, a martial arts expert, was trying to connect with his granddaughter? To this day, we don't have an answer.
The line between reality and nightmare is thin, and sometimes it's hard to tell which side you're on. When my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. It was a place that seemed to hold 1,000 stories within its walls, each creak and groan of the house whispering secrets of the past. It was the kind of place with a wraparound porch and creaky floorboards, full of character and history. The house had a soul, a presence that was both comforting and eerie at the same time. But there was one room in that house, a small, dusty parlour that always sent shivers down our spines. It was a room we avoided, a place that seemed to exist in a different time, untouched by the warmth of the rest of the house. It was always cold, even in the heat of summer, and had a musty, oppressive atmosphere. The air felt heavy, as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for something or someone. The centerpiece of the parlour was a large antique rocking chair, its dark wood polished to a sheen. It was an imposing piece of furniture, almost regal in its presence, commanding attention from anyone who dared to enter. It sat directly in the centre of the room, facing the fireplace, as if waiting for someone to settle in. The chair seemed to have a life of its own, an aura that drew you in despite the unease it caused. But no one ever did. The chair remained vacant, a silent sentinel in the middle of the room. My parents always told us to stay out of the parlour. They were adamant, their warnings laced with a seriousness that left no room for argument. "It's not safe," they'd say, their faces grim. There was a fear in their eyes, a fear that we didn't understand but couldn't ignore. One hot summer afternoon, Betsy and I decided to sneak into the forbidden room. The curiosity was too much to bear, and the mystery of the parlour called to us like a siren's song. We tiptoed down the hallway, our hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Each step felt like an adventure, a journey into the unknown. The parlour door creaked open as if inviting us in. The sound echoed through the hallway, amplifying the tension in the air. The air inside was thick and still, the only sound the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. It was as if time itself had slowed down, holding its breath along with us. We cautiously approached the rocking chair. Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of the room pressing down on us. It seemed to loom larger up close, its dark wood almost menacing in the dim light. The chair's presence was overwhelming, a dark shadow in the centre of the room. Betsy reached out a tentative hand to touch the smooth armrest. Her fingers trembled as they made contact, the wood cool and unyielding. Suddenly the rocking chair began to move. It rocked back and forth with a creak that seemed to come from the depths of the house itself. We didn't need to be told twice. The fear that gripped us was primal, an instinctual urge to flee. We turned and ran, our bare feet pounding on the wooden floor, the sound of the rocking chair chasing us. The echoes of our footsteps and the creaking chair followed us, a haunting reminder of the parlour's eerie presence. Last night, a friend rushed me out of the house to catch the opening act at a local bar's music night. The bar was buzzing with energy, filled with the sound of laughter and the clinking of glasses. I love live music, and it had been a while since I went out, so I was excited. The band was fantastic, and the atmosphere was electric. It felt good to be out, surrounded by people and music. By the time I got home, it was well past 3 a.m. The streets were eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the lively bar I had just left. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, flipping on the light switch. Darkness. The house was silent, almost too silent. "That's weird," I muttered to myself. "I just replaced the bulb yesterday, so it shouldn't have gone out so soon. I just replaced the bulb yesterday. It was a brand new one, so this didn't make any sense." I fumbled for my phone, using the dim light to navigate through the living room. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist in the faint glow. That's when I heard it. A soft, mournful sigh coming from the direction of my bedroom. It was so faint I almost thought I imagined it. I froze, my blood turning to ice. I lived alone. There shouldn't have been anyone else in the house. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowly crept toward my bedroom, my phone clutched tightly in my hand. Each step felt like an eternity. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door, my phone's light piercing the darkness. The room was empty, but the air felt different, charged with an unsettling energy, but the feeling of dread that had been building inside me only intensified. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in. Then I noticed it, the faint scent of lavender and vanilla, a familiar perfume I hadn't smelled in years. It was unmistakable. It was my mother's favourite. The scent brought back a flood of memories, both comforting and heartbreaking. My mother, who had passed away 5 years ago. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. I stumbled back, my hand flying to my mouth to stifle a scream. The room felt colder, the air thicker. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. It was as if the very essence of the room had changed. I could feel a presence in the room with me, cold and ethereal. It was a feeling I couldn't shake off. Tears welled up in my eyes as I whispered into the darkness, "Mum, is that you?" The silence that followed was deafening, filled with a mix of hope and fear. If you feel chills when listening to these stories, remember to like and subscribe for more updates on horror stories from around the dark corners of the paranormal world. These stories serve as chilling reminders that the line between our world and the realm of the supernatural is thin and easily blurred. Remember, when you feel the chills, it's there looking at you. Sweet dreams.